OptixEQ, and I'm going to preview the late pick 5 at Belmont on Saturday, September the 28th. We got the two win-in-you're-in races for the Breeders' Cup, the Beldame and the Jockey Club Gold Cup in the sequence. So interesting sequence, and it's not a difficult sequence because there's just not a lot of bulky fields and so forth. But if you can take some shots against some favorites, maybe there's something there. I'm going to just initially start off with, what's my criteria for pick fives? How do I determine if I'm going to play a pick five or not? And I suggest that you probably develop a checklist like this for yourself. It, helps discipline on, races you want to kind of go after and making sure that you have kind of an edge or somewhat of an edge. You think you have an edge when going into them. For me, the favorite needs to be vulnerable at least 3 or more of the legs, and I would not play it unless there's, 0 or 1 odds-on favorite I'm going to use. If there's more than 1, I'm not going to play that race, that sequence. Okay, just because the amount, the payouts just drop so dramatically when you have favorites, especially short odds favorites in a sequence. So I want to stay away from it. Again, I'm playing this long term. I know with pick fives you're not going to hit them frequently, and so when you do, you need to get paid. And again, the idea is long term, the return is there. So the second point is I don't want to play it if there's more than 2 spread races in the sequence. Spread type races. What is a spread race? It's a race where I have little opinion who the winner is going to be, or it's real difficult. And so if there's more than 2, I prefer 1 or 0, but if there's more than 2, I'm really guessing and stabbing. And I'm probably going to play a lot of tickets and really not have a strong opinion or no edge. So I want to avoid those types of situations. The third thing is that in those spread races, I do want to tier my horses. I don't treat all the horses in the same way, so I want to weight them. Some people use the sequence, the ABC kind of thing, where your primary contenders are A and your C's are horses that you just want to not get hurt with. Same kind of concept. So I just would. And sometimes I use 2 tiers, sometimes I use 3. It depends on what I'm trying to accomplish, field sizes, and so forth. But that concept applies in those spread races. However, in races where I think I have an opinion, I want to really narrow down. So I identify 1 or 2 keys as my 4th point in other races. So, I may have backups, but again, I want to narrow down my key horses to 1 or 2 and not just be all over the place. Again, I want my handicapping opinions to be, reflect my wager. Okay, so that's what I want to do. Okay, so that's just, hopefully that was helpful. That's just kind of some of the criteria I use. And so keep that in mind as we go along this sequence, which starts with the race 7, which is an optional claimer sprinting on the turf. The first thing I noticed about this race is that a lot of the horses are above the line. You can see the speed rating is 75, but they're squares above the line. To me, this just looks like when you have a lot of horses above the line and a lot of them are squares, tells me that this race is a solid race. There's some good horses, maybe some horses dropping, some horses that have run well lately. When I look at the early pace, the number 5 and the 6 of the early pace horses, just when you look at the picture here, the 6 looks better than the 5. He's higher on the y-axis. He's a smaller circle. So I would say that the 6 would get the best of the early pace situation. Now, can he stick and hold on? Another question. But when you're looking at a race like this, I always kind of look at who's going to do the best early and what are the horses coming off the pace and who's going to do best there. For me, the off-the-pace horses are the squares, and the squares that are squares on both standard and surface and distance, and that's the number 1, 3, and 4. You see the 7, 8 kind of flip, between circles and squares when you go to standard and surface and distance. Like them less. So looking at the 1 and the 3, they come out of the same race at Saratoga. You look at their speed figures. They both qualify on speed figure. They're above the line here. They're north of the 0. So they look strong, and there's no knocks against them. The one thing I would tell you about the 3, we have a keyword trouble. That means that horse had an issue in the last race. So maybe if the odds on the 1 and 3 are close, and this is the first leg, so you get to see the odds, and the 3 is maybe higher priced, you might want to key on the 3 horse in this situation. The other horse I looked at was even though he's kind of flipping flopping there between circle and square, is the number 8, just because you have Jason Service and Michael Dubb and Irad Ortiz. So I had to look at this horse a little bit more closely. Didn't want to get knocked out too badly in the first leg without looking at this horse. And what I don't like about this horse is there's a lot of spacing between her races. It's 49, 252 days, 61 days, 44 days. I mean, Service puts horses where they can win, but I'm not crazy about that spacing. And if you look at her races, the winning races, the races she's run real well, she's had the trip flow, free, perfect. Races where she haven't had it all her own way. No keep, she didn't run it. Fourth on a yielding course. Again, the win that she had back in May 31st, 2000, perfect. So this horse seems like they need the trip. Don't like the spacing. It's probably going to get played based on the connection. So, I mean, I'm going to just limit that horse. In summary, I'm going to limit that horse to a backup. So, here's my summary of this race. Number 6, High Jingo, best early pace candidate. Got to always include those horses somewhere, either as a backup or as a key contender. The off-pace squares on both standard and surface are viable. The 1 and the 3, our class and Optics Fit qualifiers. The 3 had trouble in the last race. The 4, we didn't get much into the 4, but he's the other horse. A little light on Optics Figs, but I would definitely use as a backup. And then, just consider the 8 as maybe a potential backup, just not to get knocked out. Again, I would be identifying a key probably between the 1, 3, and 6, since this is the first leg, and you'll get to see the odds and get a feel for the way the track's playing. But I would just think 1, 3, and 6. One of those horses or 2 of those horses would be my key in this first leg of the Pick 5.